Standard form is used for writing really big and small numbers. The form that you have to write it in is something times 10 to the power something. The condition for that first number is it has to be between 1 and 10. Let's take 23 as an example. If you want this to be between 1 and 10, think about where you put the decimal point. If I put the decimal point between the 2 and the 3, that turns into a number between 1 and 10. I then need to think about what do I times 2.3 by to get it to 23. Well, I times it by 10 because 2.3 times 10 gives me 23. In this case, the power would have been a 1. That is written in standard form. Let's do the same with this. I've got to think about where the decimal point goes, so this number is between 1 and 10. If I put the decimal point here, between the 2 and the 3 again, I get 2.34. That number is between 1 and 10. I then need to times it by 10 to the power something. Got to think about how much do I have to times this by to get 234? Well, I'd have to times it by 10, 100. So that means 10 squared. Here, got to think about where the decimal point goes. It has to go between the 4 and the 5. Again, we're going to times this by 10 to the power something. The shortcut is looking at how many places the decimal point has moved. It's moved 3 places. This time, I need to put the decimal point between the 7 and the 8 to give me 7.8. Here, I'm going to make the 7.8 smaller. So I'm going to times it by 10, but because I'm making it smaller, the power is negative. And it's moved 1 place, so it's negative 1. Same with example 5. To get this number between 1 and 10, I have to put the decimal point between the 5 and 3. I'm making the number smaller to turn into 0.053, and I'm moving the decimal point 2 places. So to make it smaller, it's a minus, and it's 2 places. Lastly, with example 6, the decimal point would have to go between the 1 and the 2. I'd have to make this number smaller to get it back to the original, and I'd have to move the decimal point 1, 2, 3 places. So that's it written in standard form. This time, we're going to work backwards. You're given the question in standard form, and you're going to write it in full. Take this first example, 2.5 times 10 cubed. 10 cubed is 10 times 10 times 10, which is 1,000. So the question becomes 2.5 times 1,000, which gives us 2,500. In the second example, you've got 10 to the power 5. This is 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, which is 100,000. So 4.62 times 100,000 gives us 462,000 as our answer. Now a shortcut for this can be looking at that power there and seeing how many places the decimal point moves. If you start with 4.62, so the point will be there, and you move it 5 places, you end up with this as an answer. Doing a similar process for this, we're timesing it by 10 million, or if you like, we're going to use the power 7, which means we move the decimal point 7 places, and we get our answer. Well, if I move it 3 places, I end up after the 9. 4 places, 5, 6, and 7. We're going to do the same for examples 4, 5, and 6, but because it's a minus, we move it the other way. We're making it smaller. So this time, if I move this 3 places to the left, well, if I move it 1 place, it would end up at 0.9. But I need to move it 3 places, so I'm going to get 0.009562. Always a good idea to check your answer. If I move the decimal point back 1, 2, 3 places, I do get the answer that I want. doing a similar thing with this. If I move it one place, the decimal point will be there. If I need to move it a further 4 places, which means there's going to be 4 more zeros. So I get 0.0000014. Again, checking the answer, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it gives me the correct answer. Last example, same with this, we're going to move it 4 places to the left. If I move it 1 place, the decimal point will be there. I have to move it 3 places further, so I'm going to end up with 3 more zeros. So 1, 2, 3, 8, 8, 9. These are trickier examples which we're going to write in standard form. Let's take the first one. This looks like it's in standard form, but not quite, because for standard form, this number here would have to be between 1 and 10. So what we're going to do is make the 25 a number between 1 and 10 by putting the decimal point between the 2 and 5. So 25 is the same as 2.5 times 10. That's that bit dealt with. The rest of the question has times 10 cubed. So let's do that here as well. Times 10 cubed. And what we can do is use our indices rules and group this together. 10 is the same as 10 to the 1. So 10 to the 1 times 10 cubed is 10 to the 4. Now that's written in standard form. Alternatively, you can do it in 2 stages. You could start with this and write it out in full. So if we start with 25 times 10 cubed, 10 cubed is 1,000. Writing this out in full gives us 25,000. And then look at 25,000 and put that back into standard form by putting the decimal point here and saying we've moved it 4 places. Whichever method you prefer. In example 2, we need to do a similar thing. It's not quite in standard form. The decimal point would have to be between the 4 and the 6. So let's do that first. So to turn this into standard form, we can say it's 4.62 times 10 to the minus 1, because we're going to make this smaller to turn into that. So that's this bit dealt with. We then need to times that by 10 to the power 5. And if you look at our indices rules, 10 to the minus 1 times 10 to the power 5, add the powers together and you get 10 to the power 4. So that's written in standard form. Similarly, with example 3, we're going to put this into standard form first. So let's work on that. We can write that as 5.389 times 10 squared. And then we also need to times that by 10 to the power 7. And looking at our indices, add the 2 and 7 together, we get 10 to the power 9.